Ever looked at a blueprint and thought, this is just the beginning of something incredible? Welcome to the InnerBlueprint Podcast, where we believe the most extraordinary builds start with you.
I'm Shawn Feurer,
the Universal Mindset Disruptor.
For over 2 decades, I've turned simple plans into remarkable realities in the home improvement world. Now, I'm here to help you do the same for your life and for your business. Make sure to take some notes, and most importantly, enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of InnerBlueprint, the podcast. This is your host, or I should say co-host, Shawn Feurer. And with me here in studio today is the beautiful, the lovely, the talented
Caitlin Feurer.
And Miss Caitlin. You excited to be here?
Always.
Absolutely. This is our second foray into podcasting.
It is.
What's going to be different? Our last podcast was called
Enjoy the Ride, the Movement.
The Movement. And what were your feelings about it? How did that go?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah, lots of great feedback. We had a lot of really amazing guests on. And it was really cool to hear like their story behind where they got to where they are. And that was really great. And I love that we had so many different people on, people from all industries, not just the home improvement industry.
Yeah. And why do you say that? What's going to be different about InnerBlueprint?
InnerBlueprint is tailored to the home improvement industry solely.
Now, not that it can be listened to by people outside, but we're really going to get focused, because the one challenge of Enjoy the Ride was we were trying to go to such a broad audience that I don't feel like we were bringing maximum value to the audience that we wanted to.
Well, and our entire audience and our clients is made up of people that are in the home improvement industry.
Yes, they are. They are.
Why do we try to sprinkle it on everyone? Of course, we all should continue to do that. But I like this laser-focused approach. Focus is one of our major superpowers in life. And when you focus on things, they get better.
Yes, they do. Well, let's explain to listeners in this first episode. You know, InnerBlueprint is the title of this podcast, and it's Remodel Your Mind for Success for the home improvement industry. But we also have a program called InnerBlueprint, which is the starting point that led us to this podcast. And should we dive into that for a minute?
Yeah, you mean that program that I talked you into recording for about 3 years?
Talked me into, I recorded it.
It's all done. It was awesome. So great. I just found that you have a wealth of knowledge based on Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, Wayne Dyer, Esther Hicks, Charlie Gandel,
Graham Masvanian.
I mean, CCN. Like, we've got a bunch of you're like this.
Dominic coming out of it.
Yes.
Oh, I've got all these.
I mean, we could just list people from now on, but you would always bring things into weekly lessons from all of these different people, right? These different mentors of yours through the years. And I said, it's time for you to kind of create your own thing based off of all of the knowledge you have accrued, not just having it pinpointed to one person, which is kind of what we taught before, right? And then your flair.
We were using, for listeners that don't know, so in my coaching business, we were using a program of Bob Proctor's called Thinking into Results. And, you know, maybe let me share a little bit, because I was in the home improvement industry for over 20 years. I grew up in the industry. I was trained by my father, not only to run a successful business, but to also be a very effective in-home sales professional. And he was my original sales trainer. But I also got a lot of good training from the Certified Contractors Network, mentored under and with Richard Kaler, the founder, Scott Siegel, the current president of the organization, and used that information in my business very successfully for almost 10 years. And when I left my home improvement business, and that's a whole other story, maybe for another day, we'll take a deep dive into that. But what I found in the industry, and I want you as a home improvement contractor listening to this to think about this, for me, for over 20 years, I attended industry events. I attended training programs. I bought trainings for my employees, for my sales reps. And one of the biggest things I saw a lack in was implementation. Actually taking the knowing, the information that we were getting and doing something. And that's actually how I found Bob Proctor. You know, I had started my own consulting business. I was trying to find traction in what am I going to teach? You know, when I was at CCN, I was coaching over 70 companies, 70 business owners, and they all had all the tools necessary to be successful, yet I still found them getting in their own way, just like I had in my own business.
I just think we all do, right? In all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, and I mean, Caitlin, right now, we currently probably have some implementation. What do we know that we should be doing more of that we're not?
Did you put a list out or there's a bunch of things, right?
Drink more water, eat better foods, relationships, have a date night, make sure we communicate with
make sure we keep that totally solid. And sometimes we know that and we let life get in the way, and we're 99% of the time so great at that. And then, life happens. And I think that that's what this podcast is, just a reminder of like, hey, you know what you should be doing. Let us help you, give you some tools to help you do that and get your mind right so that you can override whatever subconscious programming is keeping you from doing what you know you should be doing.
Yeah. I mean, 95% of your daily activity, 95% of your 60 to 70,000 conscious thoughts you have a day, that's a lot, is programmed. It's running programs and paradigms. So when you get new information, that's one of the reasons. Now, how did I come to saying this and bringing this to the podcast? It's what took me to Bob Proctor's work, because as I mentioned, I was working with a lot of business owners. I had all the information at my fingertips, and yet we still didn't see implementation. And when I saw Bob Proctor at 3 a.m. on a webinar back in 2018, my eyes were open. A light bulb went on. I'd always heard 95% mindset, 5% mechanics, but I didn't understand how that was truly possible. You have to have a sales process. You have to have a business plan. You have to have all these systems. But I now know, and after watching Bob and then becoming involved, and just to give you a little background, Caitlin has been pushing me, for almost 4 years to build my own program. But I found Bob's. It was the light bulb that went off for me. He had a program that helped me take contractors from ideas and knowing to actual implementation and doing. And so I just wanted to test it.
Absolutely.
And for 4 years I did. I became an expert in Bob's material. He had 2,000 consultants worldwide. I became one of the top 20 in the world with his material. And I've got a book of business now with clients all over the United States and Canada that are having more success in both their business and their personal lives, higher net profits than they've ever seen. A lot of the information and knowing they have is still the same information. They're still members of CCN. They still work with Grosso University. They're still using some of the great information. They're just doing it at a higher level with the power of their mindset. And it was after 4 years that I finally said, okay, Miss Caitlin, we're ready to do our own program, right? We're ready to take, and like she said, I studied under Bob Proctor directly. I've mentored directly under Jack Canfield. I've been studying the book Think and Grow Rich for over 20 years. And all that information is what I put in my mindset program. And as we have guests on, a lot of the guests you're going to hear from are home improvement contractors that have taken 20 years of knowing, 30 years of knowing, and started implementing high-level mindset hacks, high-level mindset techniques.
Yeah.
And they're getting better results.
It's like a light switch just turns on, right? Like they flip the switch on and like, oh my gosh, everything that I know I'm finally doing, because at some level I didn't believe I deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And so that mindset completely, that shift of like, wait, I know what I'm doing. I deserve the success. And then all of a sudden, boom, like record, net profit and just all these new records that our clients have been hitting year after year after year, especially in times where people are saying, oh no, what's on the horizon? Who knows what's going to happen?
He's a little shaky. We got an election year.
Leads are down, blah, blah, blah.
We're seeing positive results. And one of the terms that's been coined is, if there is a recession, I don't plan on participating.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset, right? That's everything we're bringing to this is a mindset. So as you're listening to this first episode, I hope you're excited for the value we're going to add. And please, if you're listening and you like what we're talking about, all we ask is you share the message, right? InnerBlueprint, remodel your mind, think better thoughts to get better results.
Absolutely. Subscribe to us, whether you're listening on Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts. The more subscribers we have, the more we can get this information out. And the home improvement industry is not a small one. What's the number, Shawn?
It's over $500 billion industry. It's a huge industry. There's lots of money to be made for contractors, for all the cool people that support it. EOS is a system that I highly recommend.
We use it in our business.
We use it in our business. I was a member, an employee, and am now a sponsor of the Certified Contractors Network. I'm a huge fan of what they do in their network. Dominic Caminata with Grosso University, one of the best sales trainers I've ever worked with. If you've got some of their information and it's not working the way you want it to, keep listening. I'm going to give you some tools to help you get over the hump. One of the biggest challenges for business owners is accountability. You're not accountable to anybody but yourself, and you change the rules both at home and at work all day, every day. And what I've created with my group coaching and mindset is some real world accountability, which is very beneficial.
Extremely beneficial, because it's not just Shawn and I holding you accountable. It's your team members that you have in our program that are also holding you accountable. You're leading by example, and then you're learning to keep yourself accountable, even when you really have no one to report to necessarily, because you're the owner, you're the boss, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I grew up in the home improvement business. I met my stepfather who raised me when I was 6 years old. Like I said, financial mind. The guy was brilliant. Business mind. So good at processes and systems. Salesperson. He was one of the best. Do you know what he was the worst at? Accountability. Like me and him, I remember us going to our first business planning boot camp, and we had this awesome plan, and we went back and we didn't follow any of it. And I'm a follower, right? When I get a good system, I'm going to follow it.
And that's what makes you such a great leader.
Yes.
100%, because you are so great at following.
Well, 4 years of doing that, I said no more. And 4 years of doing it was 2008, the Great Recession, which kicked my ass and sent me in a new direction. But I learned from that. I learned that, you know what? I couldn't hold my dad accountable. My mom could. Nobody could hold Ralph Feurer accountable until he decided to hold himself. And unfortunately, he left this planet way too early. And some of it was some health issues that he wasn't accountable to himself for. Some of it was negative thinking. You know, one of my passions for this material is I grew up with a doomsday, end of the world preparing, a little bit negative thinking father that he never shifted that. And I saw the firsthand effects both on himself and my mother. And so, yeah, my mission is helping you find definite purpose in your work. Let's set some bigger goals for your business than you've ever set. Let's identify what programs and paradigms are running inside of you. You know, what do we see in contractors, Ms. Caitlin? What do you see as paradigms?
I think it all goes back to, the core paradigm that we all have as am I enough? Because a lot of times not a lot, I'll say almost every single time, our clients, these home improvement contractor owners come from backgrounds that, they worked their way up. They started working for someone else and it didn't work out. So they wanted to open their own company and they didn't really know what they were doing. They thought they knew, just like we all do, right? When we open a business, I know what I'm doing. Wait a minute. I don't know what I'm doing. And then they get to a point where they start out earning what they think they deserve.
Yes. Or they start having to trust. I mean, and that's one thing. The home improvement world is filled with a lot of people like myself. I came from a broken home. I didn't come from a lot of money. I had to learn at a very young age to work hard, to control the controllables, to, not take things for granted. And it served me to a certain level in my business, and then it started holding me back. And that's what I see. Business owners that are trying to use EOS and they still try and control and interfere and micromanage.
And walk into the sales office and tell the sales manager, you're not doing this right. Let me tell you how to...
Or go around the sales manager, around the production manager.
Totally.
Yeah, and again, it's a subconscious program. Most of the time, if you're listening and you're guilty as charged of doing this, at some level, it's not 100% your fault. No accountability here, but you were programmed that way and it made you successful to a point. And what we're going to be sharing in these episodes is breakthrough stories, business owners. I'm not going to name names because we're going to have some surprise guests, but I've got people that had $30+ million year companies that were holding themselves back because they thought they weren't educated enough. They had a PhD in business, and yet at some level, because of their upbringing, because of the people around them, because they didn't go to college, they felt like they weren't enough. I've got people that,
inherited the business from their dad.
Yes, and felt, and I had that.
No.
I used to have people tell me, oh, daddy's boy, oh, dad. No, I helped take dad's business to a level that he never even dreamed of. And I've got so many individuals I work with. I've got brothers. I've got husband-wife teams. And
it's crazy how well that can all come back together too, right?
Yes.
It all comes back together. Like even me, I was raised by a home improvement contractor who owned his own business. And you're right. Nobody could keep Scott Baker accountable. To this day, he's not with us anymore, but wherever he is, good luck holding that man accountable. But it's true. And now, my sister took over that business with my stepmom, and now there are clients. Yeah. It's crazy how, and it was something that I never wanted to be a part of because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to own my own business. And so it's funny how many people too we have that start in business with their parent, with their dad, usually their dad, right? And then they're like, no, I'm going to go do my own thing. And they somehow end up back in the home improvement industry, right?
Yes. And it's interesting. It's not very often we see anybody enter the home improvement space with a business degree or an MBA. Mm-hmm. They come from a lot of times tougher backgrounds. And some of you might be in that case. You're either a good sales rep or a good technical installer that knows how to do the trade that decides to start a business. You have your entrepreneurial seizure. And next thing you know, you've sold as much as you can by yourself. And now you've got to run a business. And so this podcast is dedicated to mindset, but it's going to be helping share stories of processes that people use, trainings, right hires, all the stories. The other thing too, I just want to set the stage. With all of our clients, we use the trifecta. It's a term I coined for the powerful triangle that we create. The two bases are health and wellness and relationship with self. And then the top of that triangle is finances. And for each one of you, as you build a better business, you need to build a better version of you. Health and mental wellness. Relationship with self is a mirror of every relationship around you. And, as you're listening right now, think, how do you rate yourself on those 3 areas in a scale of 1 to 10? And that's a good starting point as you start listening to these episodes.
Yeah, and as you dive deep and go, maybe I'm only a 4 in one of those areas, start to think, what would it take to get me up to a 10?
What I share on my social media, in my program, InnerBlueprint, and I'm sure we'll do an episode on it at one point, but in 2014, I found myself at about a 2 out of 10 on all 3 of those areas. I was broke, I was sick, and I didn't like myself very much, and because of that, nobody around me. And I've used the tools in InnerBlueprint, and we're going to share on these podcasts today. If I thought it was possible to get to a 10, and I don't, because every time I get close, I up the number, I change my scale. But right now, I'm probably a 9 out of 10 on all 3 areas. I'm making more money than I ever have. I'm in the best shape of my life at 50 years old.
Yeah.
Prescription-free, hormone-free. And I've got beautiful, loving relationships all around me. And I've used everything we share on InnerBlueprint, the podcast, to accomplish that. Miss Caitlin, how are you doing on the scales?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, right? Whenever you get to the point where you're like, man, I'm a 10 out of 10, it's time to raise the bar.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I'd say I'm about an 8 or 9 out of 10 in all those areas right now, because I'm going to get ready to level up. And this podcast is a version of our way of leveling up.
Yes. Miss Caitlin, so we met a little over 4 years ago. Where would you rate yourself when we met? How are you doing those 3 areas?
Let's see. Finances, I was probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Health and wellness, physically, was great.
Yeah.
That was a 9 out of 10.
Emotionally, mentally
was like a 1 probably. I lived by the term, that's fine. It's fine. And to me, everything was fine, but nothing was ever good. And my relationships, I remember it was such an eye-opener for me when I realized I can't even love my children as much as I want to because I don't love myself enough. And that shook me.
Yeah.
I realized quickly that every relationship in my life was based off the relationship I had with myself at some level. And
and that's as it is, right?
Yeah.
As it is.
Yeah.
You guys, I have a background in the home improvement industry. So does Miss Caitlin. We've both done the work. We both come from some challenging backgrounds. Her biological mother basically left her at birth. My dad left me a couple times before I was 6 years old. We've had step parents. Our biological parents are either dead or not part of our life today.
Yep.
But her and I have taken a dedicated path to the home improvement industry, to working on ourselves. And we don't just teach this material. We're preachers that are actually living it every single day. We're students of it. We're never going to stop. We want worldwide impact. We want to help millions of people remove self-limiting beliefs. And we're going to use this podcast as a channel, as a platform. So if you want to be on it, if you got a good story, send us a message. If you know somebody that has a good story of how they use mindset, how they use the power of will, determination, and just never giving up to hit huge levels of success, we want them on as guests. We want to share that information and give more success stories in the home improvement world.
Absolutely. If you are seeing huge success right now and you're like, man, I did this, this, and this to get me there, I want to hear your story. What got you there?
Yes.
I want to know what that is, because the more information we can share with others, the better, right? And because, like I said, with Shawn, for example, he is a wealth of knowledge from all these different mentors, both in the home improvement industry and outside of it too. And what works for one person doesn't work for every person. And so some episodes might really, really call to you, and some you're going to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't really, I can't relate, right? And that's okay.
Well, that was one of the biggest things, and one of the reasons when I started my consulting business, I hate when somebody tells you they have the answer for you, right? Because of sales system or because one person had success in one market, don't change your whole business to copy that. And I've been working with companies all over the United States and Canada now for over a decade. Every market is different. Every product is different. Every company culture is different. Every business owner. And we have to look at the uniques and the mindset of what makes up your business and your community.
Yeah.
And then get you the best plan for there. And so we tweak everything we do based on personality, based on individuals, and based on what your hopes and dreams are. And this is going to be hopefully a platform to share lots of really cool stories of how that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny that all of those things that Shawn just said, they really come back to one thing, and that is, where is your mindset?
Oh, yeah.
You take the term mindset, and it's so overused these days. Some people use it like, oh, you have a shitty mindset, or, oh, this guy is so successful because he has a great mindset. But what does that mean?
What do you mean? If I see a successful person and I want to copy their mindset, what am I actually looking at? And we break it down into 2 words, right, Cam?
Yeah. Where is your mindset?
And let's talk about money for just 1 second to give a baseline. Most of us are programmed with 0 as a set point, and we have scarcity mindset at some level. So if you look at your income for the last 5 years, whatever you're earning, if it hasn't had a huge trajectory up, that's where your mind is set on money. And one of the first things we encourage people to do, change it. Change it. It was set originally somewhere in childhood. You know, whatever you heard growing up over and over again. Money doesn't grow on trees. Maybe it's the root of all evil. Maybe you just grew up in a poor household where money was a scarcity and that got programmed into you. We got to shift that. We got to change that. We're changing where your mind is set on all these different pillars of belief. Time, money, relationship, what you deserve, flying first class, Rolex watches, whatever it is. We all have mindsets, and mine were low on a lot of those I just mentioned, and now I've raised to...
Yeah, it's true. It's wild to see. I mean, one of my favorite Shawnisms, Shawn has a lot of Shawnisms, is he said, you know, if you get a surprise bill in the mail and it's like $1,000, if you're comparing that to the number 0, that can be a lot of money. But if you're comparing that to $1 million, that's nothing. Mm-hmm. So where is your mindset?
Yeah, and I mean, I went through some challenging times financially through a divorce, and I was set at 0, and I would give bills that would seem like the end of the world and surprises and all these things that I've shifted my mindset to higher numbers. You know, I program over and over, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And as we make the numbers small in our mind, they become small in the physical world. And we're helping make a lot of multimillionaires by changing where their mindset point is. And once you change it, you can't go back. You really can't.
You really can't. And it's crazy to me because when it comes to things like this and where your mind is set, and whether that's $1 million or whether that's $0, there's always a journey to get there, right? It's not like you can wake up every day, but with what we teach and with our program, and when you're working with us and what we share in this podcast, is that really the sky's the limit. Your number for your goal for whatever your business is, or your personal income or whatever that is, doesn't have to be based on anything. It can be whatever you want on the how.
Yeah. You do how. It doesn't matter how. You have to believe it's possible.
And I was raised, and in all my, my professional background, to set SMART goals. You take your goal, like as a company, we made, $3.4 million last year. Well, not our company. This is just an example. $3.4 million. Well, we should add 10% to that, and that's going to be our goal for next year,
20,
or whatever it is, right? Something that's logical.
And logical is a set point.
And there is a place for logic.
What thinks is logical is a lot crazier than what I think is logical.
That's it.
So, no, and we really do want you to dive into this as you're listening and be excited to think some different thoughts. So I hope we could disrupt some thinking as you're listening and help you get to a better understanding of how your mind works and how applying the things we talk about into your life will bring you financial abundance, better health and wellness. And real importantly, I mean, we are having a lot of impact with fathers, with moms, becoming better parents, becoming better spouses. And again, we're doing the work ourselves. We're still learning as we grow.
100%. I mean, this morning I woke up, I did my breath work in bed, listened to A Grateful Day by Brother David, and then put on the lesson. I do it every day. And your morning routine is very similar. I mean, you're crazier. You get in an ice bath every day. I'm not going to do that.
Sauna, 3 minutes in the ice bath. I do my affirmations. I do my Grateful Day. Google a Brother David Grateful Day. It's a 5-minute gratitude. I do my workout, and then we're ready for the day. We're on high vibration. We're ready to attract good things into our life, and we have positive mental attitudes. And that's what the power of a positive mental attitude, Bob Proctor used to say, is you're going to doubt anything, down your limits. And so every day I down my limits and I break through. And that's what we're trying to inspire more people to do, is live their life on purpose, on contract with themselves, removing self-limiting beliefs, the chains that hold us all back, so that they may live their lives in freedom, abundance, fun, and love. One of my affirmations I say to myself every single day.
Yes.
Well, Caitlin has some Caitlinisms too. One of them is KST, Standard Time, which we'll probably do an episode on time management with her.
Okay, I have, as one of my favorite clients told me, a very loose relationship with time. And it's because I'm the eternal optimist. I believe we can fit more into a single minute than what is programmed into it.
And I've been doing that for 4 years, you guys. And I had hair when I met her. I don't.
No, you did not.
No, I didn't. But yeah, anyway, we're excited. We want to get this first episode out, kind of share some of the messages what we're going to be talking about.
Let's give some takeaways. My favorite takeaway that I'm going to share is called E plus R equals O.
All right.
It's the mathematical equation to stay in control in any event in your life. Jack Canfield actually taught it to me, taught it to you,
Yes.
taught it to us, taught it to so many people in the world.
One of our guests is going to be coming on that has a tattooed on his wrist that's been so impactful.
And I've got it on a wristband, just like we have. If you guys want a wristband, hit me up.
So what is the takeaway? 30-second version, E plus R equals O.
The E stands for the events in life. You add to that either your reaction or response. Typically, reactions are very emotionally charged, not from the clearest state of mind, and it creates a poor outcome, right?
Yep.
Road rage is a great example. Or if you take a deep breath and learn to respond, you can create a positive outcome. So E plus R equals O. The events plus your reaction if you want to be a crazy person, or response if you want to create a good outcome. Either way is going to create the outcome.
And we have to let control of the events. We don't control them. And as most home improvement contractors, we try and control the weather, our employees, our customers. We don't control that the way we think we do. We do control our response. And as we get better at our response, we create better outcomes. Love that one, Caitlin. I'm going to say takeaway number 2 is just a practice of gratitude. You know, I know in the business world, it's not talked about often enough, but we get more of what we're grateful for. And so I've made it intentional for almost 5 years now. Every single day I listen to a brother David, a grateful day, and he reminds me that today's a gift. That yesterday I could have been homeless. Yesterday I could have been back in 2014 in my low point. And today I woke up in this version of my life, which is so much better than most people around the world live in. And holding some time in that gratitude, and then remembering tomorrow isn't promised. It might be my last day. And so if I give presents to, I'm grateful for my first and my last day every day, I make better days every single day.
Yeah.
All right. That's 2 takeaways. What's number 3?
Get ready to forget the how. I would use another F word, but I'm trained with myself. Yes. Really, let's just say it. Fuck the how.
There's at least a house to everything you're ever going to try and do. And so just decide what you want, right?
Just decide what you want. And the path can change, and it will change, and that's okay. But the goal cannot. Like, keep that in your mind and just forget about how you're going to get there. Because if you truly believe in what you want, it will happen, whether that's good or bad, honestly. And so,
I mean, most of my most successful friends, they've gone through 13 CRMs, 4 sales processes, right? And when they got each one of those, I've got the greatest CRM. I've got the best. I've got the best. I've got the best. Wait a second. It wasn't the best for me, right?
Yeah, 100%. So just get ready as you listen to really focus on those 3 takeaways throughout the entire InnerBlueprint podcast.
Yes.
E plus R equals O.
Gratitude
every single moment.
And forget the how. Just forget the how.
100%.
I actually had, the blessing to marry this beautiful woman that's co-host of this podcast on New Year's Eve at one of the legend of the home improvement industry's house, Mr. Charlie Gindell. He actually performed the ceremony.
Yes.
He's been a mentor and friend of mine for over 20 years. And if people were to ask me, one, how I got this beautiful woman to marry me, how I got it to happen at Charlie's house, how, I didn't know the how 5 years ago when I started this particular part of my journey. I just decided in my mind where I wanted to set it, and I put it on autopilot, and the how kind of unveils itself for you one step at a time. And my life is a true blessing since I let go of the how and just stepped into believing in myself, loving myself, trusting myself, and following where it takes me.
It's like you always say, it's you can never connect the dots going forward, but you always can going backwards.
Trust. You got to trust. You got to let go. All right. Miss Caitlin, how does it get better?
It just did.
It just did.
And just like that, we've laid another brick in the foundation of your incredible journey. Thanks for tuning into the Inner Blueprint Podcast with Shawn Feurer, your navigator through the maze of mindset and success. Remember, every tool you need is already in your belt. It's all about how you use them to craft the masterpiece that is your life and business. Now, don't let the momentum stop here. Follow me on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to never miss an episode filled with the blueprints to your best self.